I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of Ollie London. He was on the Culture War podcast with a guy named Tim Pool.
I've heard of him.
And it's a similar story. People get enthralled and just enamored with these K-pop idols to the point where they start chemically and surgically altering themselves to emulate them. And this is another example of that. This was an actor from Canada named Saint Von Colucci, I believe, only 22 years old, who recently died in South Korea as a complication from one of his plastic surgeries, one of 12 plastic surgeries that he got in an effort to look like Jimin from BTS. And here's basically what happened. He got implants in his jaw that were likely made of silicone, and this kind of stuff can get real dangerous real quick, and it's not as regulated in other countries. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people travel to get these types of surgeries, like in Turkey and other like Asian countries where it's cheaper, it's less regulated. But there's a reason that it's highly regulated in the West. It's extremely dangerous to get implants of silicone in your body. Your body can very often react to it as if it's an autoimmune disease and start attacking it as a foreign agent, because it is a foreign substance that's been introduced to your body. It can easily get infected. There's also a time limit where you have to replace it after a certain amount of years. And if you believe society is about to collapse, then you probably shouldn't do that because it could kill you. And that's what this situation was. It was only a few months ago that he got the implants.
Somebody should make like a parody of a dystopian movie, like where like they're doing it and somebody just dies on the battlefield of implants.
Like, this is what I think about. Like, if society collapses, do you really want to have to cut out your breast implants 10 years down the line? There's a time limit, 10 years to replace them. Do you think that everything is going to be up and running by then? Like, be realistic.
It's going to be amazing.
Or cut them out of your face or wherever you've put them. Like, we were just talking about Black China. She got a 9-hour procedure to suck the silicone out of her body.
Yep.
9 hours of just excruciating discomfort.
I wonder how informed they are beforehand. How informed they are about what the process is like to get removed.
And this is also somebody in a foreign country where I'm sure there's a language barrier. In South Korea, which has a huge plastic surgery industry.
I imagine
with natives and people from other countries.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, moments ago, about the safety of it. I imagine a place like South Korea is probably safe. Now, this is not to say that procedures don't come with inherent risks, obviously. But if there's a place in the world that I'm getting a procedure, South Korea is among the places where I would say, okay, I feel good about that. Far more than anywhere, far better than likely anywhere in the rest of Asia, probably. I mean, save for maybe Japan, but I wouldn't want to go to China or any other countries.
But we're going off vibes.
But more.
And I don't think you want to put your life on the line with vibes.
I don't need to get silicone in my chin.
12. It's 12 of any procedure is going to carry inherent risks because you're just putting yourself at risk more often.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you shown a picture of this person?
Yeah.
I'd like to show a picture of Saint Von Colucci. This person is obviously, someone who's born, looking very different from the way that he looked when he died. He is a white person who set out to look like he is Asian, and
there's the before of the surgery right there.
Yeah. And Ollie London spoke from personal experience about this. On many occasions. It's transracialism plus all of the procedures that come with like transgenderism.
I was gonna say, think about if you want to wonder how we got to the concept of gender affirming care. Yes. There's a pretty straight line from I need these procedures to feel good about myself and I mean, you could make the argument in a lot of ways to just about anything. Like, there are people who get other procedures that are cosmetic that aren't necessarily something this serious, right?
Sure,
people cap their teeth.
There's obviously gradations to the procedures.
But when we start talking about you get these things done just to feel good about yourself, and then you go all the way down to, well, if we don't give this procedure to this kid, he might, sewer slide.
Right. It's like, where do we draw the line?
Yeah.
Because if it's arbitrary, it's going to keep getting pushed and pushed.
Yeah.
This person had spent $220,000 on plastic surgeries.
Insane.
And what was it all for?
Death.
Like,
there are female models who's literally, that's what they do for a living. They get plastic surgery, and they have basically they have like Patreons where people just donate money so they can continue extreme body modification.
A surrogate life purpose for people. Mm-hmm. And the fact that doctors are completely legally permitted to participate in this delusion,
because it makes them mone.
Because it's a profit-driven industry.
Mary's calling for socialism in communism. You heard it here first, ladies.
Well, I'm just saying, like, imagine if this were liability for insurance companies. For private insurance companies.
Yep.
I don't think this would be as bad of a problem. We were talking about this before, like, obviously, a boob job isn't necessarily covered under your medical insurance, but why is gender affirming care?
Well, that should.
What's the line?
Yeah.
And does the line make any freaking sense? I don't think it does.
And it would be different to every person anyways, right? Like everyone's going to have a different...
Are you discriminating against somebody because they were born Asian inside their soul, but they're white on the outside? Like, that's... Where do we draw the line?
I have no idea. And it's a scary thing. I mean, it's kind of like the notion. It's like, just because we've created all this technology, you never thought about whether we should.
Yeah.
Like, we did it because we could, but we never thought about whether we should.
There's just this constant drive toward, like, self-optimization. And it's basically transhumanism, or it's the beginning of it.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's not going to be like in the movies. It's going to be ugly, and a lot of people are going to die as a result. This is just one example of this insanity.
And it speaks to, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's not just speaking to that. It's speaking to the power of people being obsessed with celebrities too.
Yeah,
because he has a specific person that he wants to look like.
And they have like these idol training programs that you are in for years before you're debuted by whatever studio owns your likeness and your complete like identity as a celebrity in South Korea.
Yeah.
And that obviously, like, that involves a lot of plastic surgery too. And that's completely aside from, like,
I mean, I see
gender stuff or transracialist stuff.
I see this and I think Machine Gun Kelly. That's what I think of when I see that. Like,
well, that is probably a picture from like many years ago.
It says 2019.
Yeah.
2019. Looks like Machine Gun Kelly to me.
I just don't. I don't know how someone can, like, a doctor who's complicit in this happening can continue practicing.
Yeah. That hairstyle in 2019?
Yeah.
I thought that went out of style in, like,
well, he's probably singing that emo song that they always put in those Instagrams and the TikToks.
What?
The one that,
what, Grandpa?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, he's probably playing some type of prank. I like it.
Did you see anything that this actor was in?
Not anything that I'd ever seen before, but in general, like, to me, it's more about the fact that he wants to be a specific person. That's the scariest part to me, is to want to look like. I can understand the idea of wanting to look different than you are, or thinking that you're not up to your generic, or not generic, but your own standard of beauty, right? You're like, I look like this, I want to look better. Like, but to think of it as an actual person, and then to go and spend that much money to look like an actual person, you're never going to be happy because you're never going to be that person. That's scary.
Yeah, and also, like, if you go after a medical procedure looking for happiness, happiness is a moving target, and you're always going to lose if that's what you're going after.
So are we saying that if he'd said, I want to look like Sydney Sweeney, it would have been covered by the government because it would have been gender-affirming care?
Yeah, which just shows that the line that they're drawing is totally arbitrary.
Yep.
I think I looked this up, and basically, depending on what state you live in, private insurance may or may not cover so-called gender-affirming care, sex reassignments
Surgeries.
So-called.
I mean, it
surgeries.
sounds extremely. Thank you. It sounds extremely not covered. Like it shouldn't be covered by any insurance to me. But now they're making that argument. Like if you don't do this now, your kid is going to DIE.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
Like that's the
Which
argument
is a
most of them
hostage
are making.
situation.
Yeah,
that
totally.
you're putting people in.
100%.
Yeah.
But though I think that there's so much of the transgender, the arguments made by transgender activists or LGBTQ activists, they're all manipulation. It's all, if you don't, we're going to die.
It's mailing the pinky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally mailing the pinky.
If
to
you
the
don't,
family
I'm going to kill
members.
myself.
Yeah.
If you don't give me the, if you don't do this,
So
I'm going to kill myself.
It's like
And
the
that's just-
toxic couple that gets in a fight and the cops show up and the one of them is like, if we don't do, if you're not with me, I'm not going to be with anyone.
It's Van Gogh's ear.
Yes. Yeah. It's terrifying. I'm more frightened by the desire to look like a specific person.
Yeah, and like, what is that person supposed to make of it? I
Yeah.
know that Jimin has gotten plastic surgeries.
Yeah. He's like, I don't even look like me.
Jimin's image is not Jimin.
Yeah. He's like,
you know?
I'm not even me.
Yeah.
Like, let alone, why would you want to be me? Like, that's terrifying to me.
Yeah.
I can't imagine any analog in my life where I would look at a certain person and be like, that guy. That's who I want to look like. Because at a certain point, especially when you're young, you have to develop a certain amount of comfort in how you look eventually, But that's scary to me. And I think that comes from a culture that seems to talk a lot about self-esteem, but doesn't
being
ever
yourself.
being yourself, but never actually works on our self-esteem because they never push you to do the active things you can do to have better self-esteem. They don't tell you to be more active. They tell you to just like yourself the way you are.
When the advice that's given to you is, you should just like yourself the way you are. You should be happy with the way you are. That there's nothing to improve on.
Yeah.
Then you end up with really awful people because they don't think of doing things to better themselves. Yeah. The idea that you must work to improve yourself doesn't just occur to people, especially when you've got all the people in your life telling you, oh, you're good, blah, blah, blah. Whatever you do is fine. Or you hear all those kind of things from the internet or whatever. So the idea that you need to go and work hard and that you need to do things and work to improve yourself is foreign to a lot of people.
Which is crazy to me because a big part of my life is like, I think about this in a certain context, which is that life is long and it's never something that's just static. I'm always moving from whether it's work that day to skating that night. I would be miserable if I was just sitting around all day. I used to be able to do that because I was using drugs. Now I can't just sit still and I can't just be happy with how I am that way, just in that moment. I can't really calm down until it's the very end of the night, right? So you have to think of life as moving from one goal to accomplish to the next, and a big part of that should be about self-improvement, if for no other reason than it's going to benefit your own mental health. And we're not telling kids to do that. We're telling them they're fine just as they are, but then people develop neuroses like this.
Mm-hmm.
There are some quotes from his publicist that suggest this might have something to do with our global culture.
Yes, I would say that that's actually fairly accurate because 2 decades ago, an American or a Canadian might not be.
Would you know who Jimin is?
Yeah, would you know who this person is?
This quote said, he was very insecure about his looks. He had a very square jawline and chin and didn't like the shape of it because he thought it was too wide and wanted a V shape, the shape that many Asians have. He was very unhappy about his appearance and insecure about his face. It was very hard for him to get a job in South Korea, and he felt very discriminated against for his Western looks. He was blonde,
so he was living
blue-eyed,
there,
tall. And he was living in South Korea,
Well, that makes
trying to get
sense.
into their music industry.
It makes sense that he would feel insecure about it there because he'd feel helpless, like there's nothing he can do in this situation.
Yeah.
They also wouldn't hold back at pointing out that he's...
That kind of is a thing because I think they've even recruited like Eurasian-looking Russian girls to be K-pop stars who have subsequently gotten hate essentially for being white.
Yeah.
So you can't.
So
win.
whose fault is Rachel Dolezal?
Oof.
I
mean, this is an ugly answer, but this is what happens when different groups live together in a shared space.
I think that
Like-
it's more about. I think it's more about the perception that society. That being a victim is currency in our society, because the whole point that she's done is she's as
was
an
a career
activist.
as well.
Yeah, her career as an activist
Right.
and stuff like that. So I think that it's more about the victimhood currency, or victimhood being a currency,
At least at the
than it
most
is-
at the most over the top examples.
Yeah.
In that
And that's
case.
like mixed with America's whole
Yep.
racial history and everything, but transracialism does not stop there.
Exist.
We're going to see more
of
of it as a phenomenon,
You're
and not
gonna
just in our cultural context.
You're going to see it more out. Maybe you'll see it outside the U.S. In the U.S., I think that there's going to be the progressives in the U.S. are going to put the lock on that. That is not going to be something that they're going to allow. Like, because essentially what's going on is we've got trans people, you've got men parading around as women, and whether you believe that they're women or whatever, that's your take or whatever, but that's essentially what it is. It's men saying we're women.
Yep.
You're not, and women are essentially accepting it.
Yeah.
Black people are not going to accept white people being like, yo, I'm black now and I can just do. Black people are
look at
not
Sean
having
King.
it. Yeah, Sean King has been able to. I think he's been able to pull the wool. If it starts
at
happening,
Logic.
what Logic? Who's Logic?
The rapper.
But he's mixed race.
Yeah, but it's just like increasingly we're gonna have situations where someone's racial authenticity is questioned.
I think black people will put their foot down. I really do think the progressives and black people will be like, nah.
Well, South Koreans.
What?
It's weird because the South Koreans get surgeries that make them ostensibly look more European looking.
Yeah, they want to look.
And again, the context that I'm talking about is only in the U.S. Like black people in the U.S. I don't think there would be like if it was in another country where people were trying to change their race or whatever. I don't think that it'll have the same kind of negative effect.
Did you ever see the Ryan Long skit where he says I voted for Joe Biden, and then like I'll send it to you later.
No.
I literally can't even describe it accurately on here. It's amazing. How is Sean King doing these days? What's that guy up to?
I don't know. All I know is like I got blocked by him on Twitter.
Big derp
multiple
energy.
times.
I think it's SHAUN in the chat. He said he's trying to spell Sean King, and he's like SEAN. I think it's SHAUN for Sean King.
Yeah, he's
I
blocked.
think I sent him like a picture of sunscreen, and I was like, "You need this."
He's one of my favorite people to just like, if you ever want a person who's just really good at just misrepresenting everything, he's fantastic at it. Like,
Well,
Anyway,
it's a leftist tactic or trait, but yeah.
I think if anybody is a cautionary tale about these types of things, it's Ollie London, and maybe he hasn't figured everything out.
Yeah.
But and we've talked about him before and opined about what might be going through his head, but
and it's a sign
to
of
renounce the transracialism and the transgenderism stuff and try to be more like your authentic self that you were born to be, that's always moving in a positive direction.
So I think one thing that I see here, we need to find a middle ground, right? We're in a culture now where people are increasingly not happy with who they are, which we're seeing from something like this.
Yeah.
Well, society tells them, you're fine just the way you are. You don't need to change a thing. You can be fat, lazy, sit on the couch and eat Cheetos all day. You need to find a middle ground where you accept the things that you cannot change, but you work on the things that you can.
Well, it's like, don't change
It's
yourself
almost like the Serenity
unless changing yourself costs money.
No, you should
Like,
still spend money.
that's
if
literally
you have
what
to,
it is.
If you need to spend money to go to a gym and get a trainer, you should go do that. If you
What
need
I'm
to-
saying is like, don't change yourself
surgically.
unless you're changing yourself in a way that profits a different, like, third party.
No, I mean, a personal
what they're
trainer is
saying.
still a third party. Surgery. We're talking life-altering cosmetic
Well, that's
procedures.
the thing. Saint Von Colucci did not want to look more fit.
Yes.
There are things about yourself that you simply
I'm saying all-encompassing, that like
Don't
we
have an
need to address
option
it on all levels.
change.
It's not just about cosmetically, it's about physically. And because a lot of it, for a lot of people, a lot of it stems from just not being happy with the way they look. And a lot of people might jump to those extremes without realizing that you might grow happier with the way you look if you take your physical fitness into your own hands, or even beyond that, find something else, like a physical activity that you like to do.
Physical exercise is so incredibly good for you and good for your mental health too. Go do something
Yep.
active. Get your heart rate up. Break a sweat.
Yep.
Do something that you actually have to break a sweat, and it'll take a couple minutes. You can't just do a couple until your heart starts beating. You have to actually go out there and raise your blood pressure and stuff. But it's so incredibly good for you. And if you do it regularly, your body will change and you will feel better about yourself overall all the time.
These are solutions, and I won't discredit that at all. But I think that what this culture really needs is like a massive spiritual transformation.
Jesus.
It needs Jesus. Okay?
In a lot of look, like for me, I go on about this all the time. When I go out and skate and I get exercise, I will post and I will tell people, I'm like, look, it sounds stupid. It sounds cliche.
I'm not
do
saying
it.
it's stupid or cliche. I'm saying that there are things even more important than that. That's what's really gonna heal people like this. It's not gonna heal you to work out more.
I'm going to tell you right now that it's probably a slightly easier sell, at least at this point in time, to try and get people to exercise than to come to a spiritual awakening now.
Or they could also go to therapy, and that's like when you say that, it has a lot of baggage attached to it.
Yeah.
Because of the corruption in that industry as well. But like some level of introspection is needed.
Yes.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.